My wife texted me, having a private dinner with my married boss. Don't wait up. I replied, enjoy. Then I quietly sent their flirty text straight to his wife with one question. Is this your husband? 10 minutes later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing, and from that moment on, Jessica and Greg had no idea what was coming for them. My name is Derek Vance, and I have been running Vance Automotive for 12 years, ever since my dad passed and left me the shop. It is not glamorous work. Most days, I smell like engine oil and burnt coffee by noon. But the shop pays the bills, keeps honest people employed, and gives me something to do with my hands when my head gets too loud. What it did not prepare me for was the moment I realized my wife of 8 years was probably having an affair. Looking back, the signs had been sitting right in front of me for weeks. Jessica had started wearing new perfume she never asked my opinion on. She guarded her phone like it held national security secrets. She suddenly had late meetings, overtime, team-building dinners, planning sessions, and all these corporate excuses that always seem to happen after dark. I wanted to believe her because that is what husbands do when they still think they are married to someone honest. But then that text came in, and something inside me went cold. The phrase innocent dinner with my married boss was almost insulting. If it was innocent, why mention that he was married? If it was just dinner, why tell me not to wait up? I opened the location sharing app on our family phone plan, the one we had set up years earlier for safety. Jessica's phone was sitting at Willow Creek Grill, the intimate restaurant by the river with candlelit tables and wine lists longer than my tax returns. It was not the kind of place where you discussed quarterly reports with your boss. I stared at that little dot on the map until Marcus's voice echoed from the front office. Derek, you still here? Marcus was my best friend and shop foreman, loyal to the bone, with the sharpest mechanics instincts in 3 counties. I called back that I was just finishing something up, but my mind was nowhere near the work order on my desk. I went into my office and opened the shared iPad we used for family stuff, calendars, shopping lists, reminders, all the little practical pieces of a married life. Jessica had forgotten that months ago we had synced her messages to it. Trust was already bleeding out in front of me. My heart hammered against my ribs as I scrolled through her recent texts. The first message that made my stomach drop was from Greg. I can't stop thinking about yesterday. It was incredible, Jessica had answered. Same here. When can we do it again? Greg replied. My wife is at her sister's this weekend. Come over Saturday. Jessica wrote back, I'll tell Derek I'm going shopping with Lauren. The messages kept going. Explicit, detailed, smug, and familiar in a way that only comes from habit. This was not a mistake. This was a routine. Months of it were sitting right there, glowing on a screen in the office my father had built. My hands were shaking as I screenshotted everything. Rage came first, hot and ugly. Then came something colder, something sharper. You learn to be patient. You learn to watch. You learn that the person who reacts first usually loses. Marcus poked his head into the office and stopped when he saw my face. You look like you've seen a ghost, brother. Everything okay? I forced a smile and said, just peachy. Then I asked him, hey, didn't you mention seeing Jessica's car somewhere earlier this week? He nodded slowly. Yeah, at that fancy grill by the river. Thought it was weird because you guys don't usually eat there. She was with some guy in a suit. They looked close. He paused, studying me. Why? I told him it was nothing, just curiosity, and waited until he left before I let myself breathe again. When the office door closed, I sat in my chair staring at the evidence. 8 years of marriage, and this was what it had become. My wife sneaking around with her married boss and calling me gullible in text messages. I opened a new message to Jessica and typed carefully. Hope you're having fun with your quarterly reports. Say hi to Greg for me. Then I went through Greg's company directory until I found the contact I wanted, Victoria Stanton, his wife. I forwarded the most damning text thread to her. Is this your husband? Figured you should know. Derek Vance, Jessica's husband. I hit send and leaned back in my chair. 30 seconds later, my phone buzzed. Victoria's reply said, thank you, we need to talk. 10 minutes after that, my phone exploded with a panic call from Jessica. Derek, what the hell did you do? Her voice was shrill, desperate, and shaking. Victoria just called Greg screaming. She knows everything. I stayed in my office chair and kept my voice calm. I just shared some interesting reading material. Is there a problem? She snapped. You ruined everything. That was when I laughed. Ruined everything? Jessica, you have been carrying on with your married boss for months and texting about it on our family plan. The only thing I ruined was your fantasy that I was too stupid to notice. Silence stretched across the line. Then she said, I'm coming home. We need to talk. I replied, take your time. I'll be here. Unlike some people, I don't have anywhere else to go. Then I hung up and immediately called my locksmith buddy, Tyler. I need an emergency lock change tonight. Can you be over in an hour? Tyler asked if everything was okay. I looked at the screenshots on my phone and said, it will be. Jessica's car screeched into the driveway at 9:15 p.m. By then I was sitting on the porch with a beer in one hand and my phone in the other, scrolling through our bank accounts. She stormed up the walkway, furious, with guilt written under the anger like a watermark. Derek, you had no right to. I stood slowly. To what? Forward your own text messages so Greg's wife could know what her husband was doing? Sounds to me like I was being a good neighbor, she said. You don't understand. It's complicated. I pulled out my phone and started reading from the thread. Greg, I can still feel your hands on me. I can't wait for Derek to go out of town again, so we can have the whole weekend. Her face went pale. I looked up and asked, is that complicated enough for you? She whispered. You read my private messages, I said. Your messages were synced to our shared iPad, the one we set up together, those private messages. Jessica, for someone who works in operations management, you are terrible at operational security. Suddenly there were tears in her eyes as she stepped closer. Derek, please, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I shook my head. 6 months of a mistake is one hell of a streak. I finished my beer and set the bottle down. Here is what is going to happen. I have changed the locks. I froze the joint accounts. Don't worry, I left you access to your personal checking. I also called the credit card companies and removed you as an authorized user. Her mouth fell open. You can't do that, I said. I just did. Your things are being packed up as we speak. As if on cue, Marcus appeared in the front doorway holding a box of her clothes. Evening, Jessica, he said. Nice night, isn't it? Jessica stared at him like the world had stopped making sense. This is insane. You're being vindictive. I sat back down. No, I'm being thorough. I trusted you completely. Foolishly, but I'm a fast learner. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Victoria. Greg is staying at his brother's tonight. Can we meet tomorrow? I have some ideas. I smiled and typed back, absolutely. I think we are going to be great friends. Jessica noticed the expression on my face and demanded, who is that? I answered, your boyfriend's wife. Lovely woman. Very interested in collaborating. Jessica's voice cracked. Derek, please don't do this. We can fix this. I stood up and really looked at the woman I had married, the woman I had worked 60-hour weeks to support while she finished her MBA. You know what is funny? I said quietly. I might have forgiven an affair. If you had come to me and told me you were unhappy, if you had admitted you made a mistake, I probably would have agreed to counseling. I probably would have tried to fix things. Hope flickered in her eyes for half a second. Then I took it away. But you did not just cheat, Jessica. You planned it. You lied to my face every single day. You used our home, our bed, and our marriage as cover for your romance. And worst of all, you thought I was too stupid to find out. That is unforgivable. Mrs. Higgins, our elderly neighbor, was watching from her window with undisguised fascination. I gave her a little wave, and she waved back. Jessica whispered, the whole neighborhood is going to find out. I said, honey, the whole neighborhood already knows. Mrs. Higgins has a security camera pointed right at our driveway, and she has been documenting your late-night visitors for weeks. Jessica's face crumpled. Where am I supposed to go? I said, I hear Greg's brother has a couch. Or maybe Lauren can put you up. Oh, wait, she is the one who told me about seeing you at the grill in the first place. Funny how that works. Jessica's eyes widened. Lauren wouldn't, I said. Lauren covered for you for months, but apparently she draws the line at being lied to straight to her face. Good for her. She took the box with trembling hands and said, I never wanted this to happen. I answered, but you wanted it to keep happening. Again and again. I opened the front door and told her the rest of her things would be ready by tomorrow. She could pick them up when I was at work. She said, Derek, wait. I paused in the doorway. 8 years, Jessica. 8 years, I would have done anything for you. I would have moved mountains and built you a castle. All you had to do was not have an affair with your boss. Then I went inside and locked the door behind me. Through the window, I watched her load the boxes into her car while Mrs. Higgins filmed from across the street. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Victoria again. Greg just confessed to everything. We need to meet. I smiled, poured myself another beer, and realized that the people who had spent months laughing behind our backs had no idea what was coming. I met Victoria Stanton the next evening at Murphy's Pub, a dive bar on the other side of town. She was nothing like I expected. She was tall, elegant, and composed, with steel gray eyes that missed nothing. She slid into the booth across from me and said, You must be Derek. I have to say, your timing was impeccable. I told her I was just returning a favor because it seemed like information she deserved to have. She ordered a whiskey neat, and I liked her immediately. After the bartender left, Victoria leaned back and said, Greg thinks he is so clever. He thought I did not know about his extracurricular activities, but I have been documenting everything for months. Bank statements, credit card bills, hotel receipts, restaurant charges. I was waiting for the right moment. Now I have corroboration. Your wife's texts, plus my evidence. He is finished. We spent the next hour comparing notes. Greg had been using the company expense account for his flings. He had taken Jessica to expensive restaurants and hotels under the cover of client meetings, business dinners, and late corporate events. Victoria had copies of all of it. She tapped the folder in front of her and said, Here is what I am thinking. We do not just expose them. We destroy them professionally, socially, completely. I took a sip of my beer and said, I'm listening. She explained that Greg was up for a promotion to regional director, and the decision was coming down next week. If the board of directors found out about his creative expense reporting, it would be very unfortunate for Greg. I said, Very unfortunate. Then we talked about Jessica. She worked in operations. She had access to sensitive company information. If the company learned she was involved in an inappropriate relationship with her boss, and that the relationship involved company funds, they would have to let her go for liability reasons. Victoria smiled. Exactly. But that is only the professional side. Personally, I think he deserves a more public education. Right then, Marcus texted me, "Dude, you have to see this. Check the neighborhood Facebook group." I opened the app and nearly choked on my beer. Mrs. Higgins had posted a video titled, "Neighborhood Watch Update." It was security footage of Jessica loading boxes into her car while crying in the driveway. The comments were already pouring in. "Oh my God, what happened? I always thought she was stuck up. Poor Derek, he is such a nice guy. Wait, isn't that the woman who was with the guy in the BMW last week?" I showed the screen to Victoria, and she laughed. A real deep laugh. "Your neighbors have good timing too," she said. I told her Mrs. Higgins had a flair for the dramatic. As I scrolled, the story was already spreading. Half the neighborhood was weighing in, and people were connecting details faster than I expected. Victoria finished her whiskey and said, "This is just the beginning. I have plans for tomorrow." Greg is taking Jessica to Summerfest tomorrow night at the company booth. Lots of glad-handing with clients and board members. He thinks it will help his chances for the promotion. I looked at her and said, "And you think it is the perfect venue for a little public education?" We shook hands in the parking lot, and as I drove home, my phone kept buzzing with notifications. The Facebook post had already been shared 12 times. At home, I found 3 voicemails from Jessica, each one more desperate than the last. "Derek, please call me back. People are posting things online. It is getting out of control. My coworkers are asking questions. Someone sent them the Facebook post. You have to make this stop. I'm at Lauren's, but her husband keeps giving me dirty looks. Please, can we just talk?" I deleted them all and went to bed. The next morning, Marcus was waiting at the shop with coffee and a grin. "Bro, you're famous. That Facebook post has been shared like 50 times. My wife's book club is talking about it." I said, "Good. Let them talk." He told me Jessica had called the shop that morning crying because I would not answer her calls. She wanted to know if I would meet with her and Greg because they wanted to apologize. I looked up from the invoice I was reviewing. "They want to what?" Marcus shook his head. "I know, the nerve of some people. What do you want me to tell her?" I said, "Tell her I'll see them both tonight at Summerfest." He gave me a long look. "You sure about this?" I said, "Oh, I'm sure. It is going to be educational." That afternoon, I got a call from Big Mike, who ran the towing service we used for impounds. Mike was 6'5" and looked like he could bench press a Buick. "Derek, you got a minute? I have something that might interest you." I asked what was going on. He said, "That BMW that is always parked at Willow Creek Grill on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the one with the custom plate GRG wins, well, it is there right now and the meter is expired." I smiled. "You know, Mike, I think that car might be illegally parked. It should probably be towed." He laughed. "Funny. I was thinking the same thing. Where should I take it?" I said the impound lot would be just fine, and reminded him to follow all proper procedures. "Oh, I always do," he said. "Very thorough. Very professional." An hour later, my phone rang with Greg's number. "Vance, this is Greg Stanton. Your wife works for me." I said, "Ex-wife. And I know who you are, Greg. What can I do for you?" He snapped. "Someone had my car towed from a legal parking spot. I think you might know something about it." I said, "I can't imagine why you would think that. Did you check the meter?" There was silence. Then he tried to sound reasonable. "Look, we need to talk man to man." I said, "I agree. See you at the festival tonight." He said, "What?" I asked if Jessica had not told him we were all meeting up, and then I hung up and called Victoria. "It's showtime." Summerfest was already in full swing when I arrived at 7 that evening. Food trucks lined the waterfront. Families had blankets spread across the grass, and kids were running around with paper cups of lemonade. Greg's company booth was near the center of the action, complete with a corporate banner and a small crowd of employees, clients, and board members. I spotted Greg immediately. He was tall, silver-haired, and polished in a polo shirt that probably cost more than some people's car payments. He was speaking animatedly to a group of older men in suits. Jessica stood beside him in a sundress. I had bought her for our anniversary the previous year. The irony was not lost on me. I bought a beer from the nearest vendor and waited where I could watch the show. Victoria had promised she would be there by 7:30. "Derek Vance, you actually came?" I turned and found Marcus approaching with his wife Karen and their 2 kids. Behind them were Big Mike and his girlfriend, plus 3 other guys from the shop. Word had apparently spread. I said, "Wouldn't miss it for the world. Should be quite a show." Karen looked toward Jessica and Greg and asked, "Is it true what they are saying online, that Jessica cheated with that silver-haired guy and you caught them?" I said, "Depends on what they are saying. But if that is what they are saying, then yes, that part is true." Karen's eyes widened. "Derek, I'm so sorry. I always liked Jessica," I said. "She has her charms," and excused myself. Then I made my way toward the company booth. Greg saw me coming, and his face went pale. "Vance," he said stiffly. "I wasn't sure you would come." I smiled. "Wouldn't miss it. Nice turnout tonight. Perfect weather for a festival." Jessica stepped forward quickly. "Derek, can we talk in private, please?" I looked around at the clients, employees, and board members standing within earshot. I think we are past private conversations, don't you? Besides, I am sure everyone here would love to hear about your quarterly reports. Several people turned toward us. Greg's jaw tightened. You're making a scene, he said under his breath. I took a sip of my beer. Am I? I thought I was just being social. Speaking of social, how is your wife, Greg? I haven't seen Victoria in ages. He stiffened. She's fine, I said, glad to hear it. Oh, there she is now. Victoria appeared at the edge of the crowd in a black dress, carrying a file folder. Her heels clicked against the pavement as she walked straight toward us. Greg, darling, there you are, she said. I have been looking all over for you. The color drained from his face. Victoria, what are you doing here? She smiled. Well, I heard you were working late again tonight, so I thought I would surprise you. And look at all these lovely people from your office. Perfect timing. She opened the folder and took out a stack of papers. I brought some light reading. I thought your colleagues might find it interesting, Greg whispered. Victoria, don't, she said. Oh, but I insist. Then she turned to the board members. Gentlemen, I believe you are considering my husband for a promotion. I have some information about his expense reports that you might want to review. She handed out copies of hotel receipts, restaurant bills, and credit card statements. The board members looked confused at first, then alarmed. One of them said, "These are all charges on the company account, but these are clearly personal expenses." Victoria nodded. Very personal. Greg has been using company funds to entertain his girlfriend here. She gestured toward Jessica. Multiple hotels, expensive dinners, weekend getaways, all billed as client meetings. The crowd around us started to grow. I spotted Mrs. Higgins near the front with her phone already out and recording. Greg said, "This is a private matter." I stepped forward and said, "Really?" Because I have a few text messages that suggest otherwise. I took out my phone and read in a clear voice, "Greg, that hotel room was incredible. I cannot wait to have you all to myself again." Gasps moved through the crowd. Jessica's face turned crimson. I kept reading. "Same room next Tuesday. Put it on the company card like last time," Jessica whispered. "Stop." I read one more. "I told Derek I'm visiting my sister. He is so gullible. We could do this forever." The crowd went silent. Greg looked like he was about to be sick. One of the board members stepped closer and asked, "Greg, is this true? Have you been misusing company funds?" Greg stammered, "It's not. It's just..." Victoria said calmly, "It is fraud. And it is a violation of company policy regarding relationships with subordinates." Another board member looked from Greg to Jessica and said, "You are terminated. Both of you. Security will escort you from the premises on Monday." Phones came out. Cameras started recording. People murmured and stared. Jessica burst into tears. "This is humiliating," she sobbed. "You are destroying our lives." I looked at her and said, "I am not destroying anything. I am just sharing the truth. You destroyed your own lives when you betrayed everyone who trusted you." Greg grabbed her arm and said they were leaving. I called after him, "Good idea. But Greg, your car is in the impound lot, so you might want to call a cab." As they pushed through the crowd, people parted around them with looks of disgust. Someone booed, someone else threw a plastic cup. Victoria appeared at my elbow and said, "Well, that went better than expected." I looked at her. "You think it is over?" She smiled. "Oh, Derek, that was just part one." The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The festival confrontation had gone viral on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Mrs. Higgins's video had been shared over 1,000 times. Local news picked it up, and Channel 8's morning show was calling it "Summerfest Drama Goes Viral" while asking for interviews. My phone rang, and it was Victoria. "Have you seen the news?" she asked. I said it was hard to miss. "We're famous." She told me Greg had been calling since the night before, begging her not to file for divorce and promising he would do anything to make it right. I asked what she told him. I told him it is too late for that. "My lawyer is filing the papers today, and I am taking him for everything he has." Then her voice changed. "But that is not why I am calling. I just got off the phone with HR at their company. Apparently, 3 other women have come forward with complaints against Greg. It goes back years." I said, "Damn." Victoria said the company was launching a full investigation because they were worried about liability, lawsuits, and the whole 9 yards. Greg was not just fired anymore. He was probably going to be blacklisted from the entire industry. Jessica was finished there too. Word travels fast in corporate circles, and she would be lucky to get a management job anywhere serious. I should have felt satisfied. Part of me did, but another part of me just felt empty. 8 years of marriage had been reduced to viral videos and public humiliation. My phone vibrated again with another call. This time it was Lauren, Jessica's supposed best friend. "Derek, it's Lauren. I need to talk to you." I asked, "About what?" She said Jessica was at her house and not doing well. "She hasn't eaten in 2 days. She just sits on my couch, crying and watching the videos of herself online. This is wrong, Derek. I know you are angry, but this is going too far. She made a mistake." I laughed once, and it had no humor in it. "A mistake?" "She had a 6-month affair with her married boss and used our home as a cover." "That is not a mistake, Lauren. That is a choice." Multiple choices. Lauren said the public humiliation was too much, that Jessica did not deserve to have videos of herself going viral. I asked her what Jessica did deserve. A quiet divorce where she gets half of everything I built while she was with someone else? A chance to play the victim and rewrite history? The silence on the other end told me I had hit a nerve. Here is the thing, Lauren. Jessica thought I was too stupid to figure out what she was doing. She thought she could manipulate me, lie to me, and I would never know the difference. She was wrong. Lauren said, "So you decided to destroy her life?" I said no. I decided to tell the truth. Everything that happened after that was consequences. Then Lauren said something that stopped me cold. She is talking about harming herself. Whatever Jessica had done, I did not want a serious situation on my conscience. I sat up straight and said, if she is a danger to herself, call 911. Get her professional help. But I am not her husband anymore, and I am not her savior. I hung up and sat in my kitchen, looking out the window toward Mrs. Higgins's house. She was in her garden. My phone rang again from a number I did not recognize. A professional female voice said, "Mr. Vance, this is Sarah Jenkins from Channel 8 News. We would like to do an interview about the festival incident. We are calling it Viral Justice when betrayal goes public." I said I was not interested. She told me it would be a chance to tell my side of the story. I thought about it. The story was already out there. At least this way, I could control the narrative. One condition, I said. No sappy angles. I am not looking for sympathy. I just want people to understand that actions have consequences. She agreed. The interview aired that night. I watched it at Murphy's Pub with Marcus, Big Mike, and half the guys from the shop. The reporter kept it to the facts. They interviewed me, Victoria, and even Mrs. Higgins, who had somehow become a local celebrity. When the camera was on me, I told them, I did not set out to humiliate anyone. I just refused to be the fool in someone else's story. When you break someone's trust, you do not get to control how they react. The segment ended with an update. Greg had been fired and was facing a potential lawsuit from the company. Jessica was unemployed and had moved back in with her parents in Ohio. The company was implementing new policies around workplace relationships and expense reports. Marcus raised his beer and said, "Justice." I raised mine back and said, "Justice." But as I drove home that night, I realized the word did not quite fit what I was feeling. I did not feel victorious. I felt free. For 8 years, I had been married to a woman who saw me as cover for her real life. Now, for the first time in longer than I could remember, I was just myself again. That night, my phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. "Saw you on the news. You handled yourself well. If you are ever ready to start dating again, give me a call. Rachel from the hardware store." I smiled for the first time and saved her number. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed with no one to answer to but myself. I made coffee, read the paper, and headed to the shop where honest work and loyal friends were waiting for me. At lunch, Marcus brought me a printout of the latest neighborhood Facebook post. Mrs. Higgins had shared a picture of a moving truck at Greg's house with the caption, "Neighborhood Watch Update. The man in the BMW is moving out. His wife got to keep the house. Justice is served." The comments were full of celebration and support for Victoria, who had apparently become a neighborhood hero. Marcus asked, "You think it is really over now?" I looked around my shop at the business I had built and the life I had earned, and then I looked at my phone, where Rachel's number was saved under New Beginning. "Yeah," I said. "It is over. And it is just beginning." 6 months later, I got a wedding invitation in the mail. Victoria was marrying her divorce lawyer, a guy named David, who apparently appreciated women with backbone. The invitation included a handwritten note. "Thank you for being a good friend during the worst time of my life. Hope you'll dance at my wedding, Victoria." I RSVP'd yes and bought a new suit for the occasion. Jessica never contacted me again. According to mutual friends, she was working at a call center in Columbus and living with her parents. Greg had moved to Florida and was selling insurance. Both of them had learned that actions have consequences, and that some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. As for me, I married Rachel from the hardware store 2 years later. She was nothing like Jessica. She was honest, straightforward, and smart enough to appreciate a man who valued loyalty above all else. We honeymooned in Maine, building new memories on hard-won wisdom. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled things with Jessica and Greg. They ask if the public outcome was too much. I always give them the same answer. They made their choices in private. I made sure the consequences were public. It was accountability, and it was fair. They gambled with other people's lives, other people's trust, and other people's hearts. They lost that bet, and the house always collects. Last I heard, the video of their festival confrontation was still circulating online. Mrs. Higgins turned her viral fame into a neighborhood watch consulting business, teaching other communities how to document and share important safety information. Marcus still works at the shop, although now he is a part owner. Big Mike expanded his towing business and hired 3 more trucks. Victoria and David have 2 kids and send Christmas cards every year. I learned the most important lesson of all. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. And when they try to make you the fool in their story, write a better ending. Situations like this remind me how deeply betrayal hurts when it comes from someone you trusted with your whole life. It is hard to stand tall when the people closest to you make you feel foolish, replaceable, or easy to deceive. But setting firm boundaries is often the first real step toward reclaiming your peace. We cannot control how others choose to act, but we can decide what we will tolerate and hold people accountable. True healing begins when you stop letting someone else's bad decisions define your worth. Sometimes the strongest response is not chasing, begging, or trying to repair what someone else destroyed. Sometimes the strongest response is walking away from toxicity, choosing your own peace, and rebuilding your life around people who understand honesty and loyalty. I hope you always remember your value and never settle for anything less than genuine respect. Share your thoughts below about how you protect your boundaries and choose peace in difficult times. Thank you for spending your time here and being part of this supportive community. If you enjoy stories like this, leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. I will see you in the upcoming stories.